Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ageless Rock, a channel for megalithic fans with megalithic lens to see things from a megalithic perspective. This is a continuation of my previous video on Nan Madol city. If you enjoyed the first part, you will definitely like the second part. It is pretty wild to think that Micronesians in Ponape reached Easter Island of Polynesia, where no matter how much you praise the seafaring skills, it is still a mystery. Crossing approximately 10,500 kilometers on small outriggers in Stone Age style will raise a lot of questions for a long time. Nan Madol is also believed to be part of the lost continent called Mu. According to James Churchward, Mu is the motherland of man. He believes it is the lost continent of Lemuria, posited to be the starting point of human origins. It is an interesting subject with a lot of believers. Nan Madol looks like a place out of the ordinary in contrast to those living under palm leaf. The inhabitants were struck in awe when the majestic structure looks like a place only gods can build. The traditional name for this site is Son Nan Leng, which means Reef of Heaven. It is not a surprise why it is named as such. To the mainstream, Nan Madol means spaces between or within the intervals, which is a reference to the canals that crisscross the entire ancient city. But to the natives of the island, Madol has a different meaning. It means city of ghosts, because they say the stones were levitated and were moved by ghost hands. What we see on top of the reef is just a ghost city of a mysterious megalithic origin. But that is not all. It actually extends into the sea about 100 meters deep. The megalithic ruins found under the sea shows it was submerged by the ocean a long time ago. This can only happen if you consider the ocean level was much lower due to ice age, where much of the water was trapped in ice blanketing much of the northern hemisphere. But that would bring the dating to 14,000 years old when the last deglaciation occurred, a date that mainstream cannot accept. An added feature about these basalt columns is that they are magnetized. This magnetic quality shows it was collected as natural rock from somewhere and was magnetized by unknown technology and is part of a bigger picture. Just like we use magnets to float a train so that it can travel at 600 kilometers per hour, the unknown ancient builders could have used this technology to levitate the stones. Since the stones were charged with magnetism, Nan Madol will generate energies we cannot see and function as a so-called sacred site we will never understand. That makes me wonder if that is the reason why they were stacked in crisscross method, just like positive and negative charge of a magnet. In 1874, a Polish explorer and ethnographer by the name John Kubary spent most of his life in Ponape. He is said to have found round discs in the tomb, pierced in the middle so highly valued today, which serve as money, and to adorn the waistband and the headband. It looks like Ponape also has circular stones with holes in the middle, but the value as money is in Yap Island. He collected more than 100 chests of artifacts for Hamburg Museum, despite warning from the locals about the sacred site not to be disturbed. His schooner didn't reach Germany because it sank at Jaluit Atoll. He had several misfortunes after that and died under a tree. His death could be suicide, murder, or heart attack. Locals believe he was cursed. In the early 20th century, a German governor by the name Victor Berg entered a sacred tomb and opened a coffin. He found skeletons of a few giants measuring 2 to 3 meters tall. That day, a torrential rain, thunderstorm, and lightning befell the island.
Victor started hearing sounds from conch shell blowing. He died the next day.
According to locals, this blatant disregard to the sacred site caused his death, but scientists say it was sunstroke and heat exhaustion. But the island has a very nice climate all year round, and he was well adapted to a daily life of the islanders. Kubari said that Nan Madol architects were members of a distinct black race. That race no longer exists in Ponape, and those alive were mongrel people. That reminds me of the early settlers in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, and Australia. The really old and original people of Austronesian region are actually very dark-skinned and often regarded as African. No one knows the exact history of their origin, but they easily go back to about 8,000 or 10,000 years ago. This site also attracted Japanese researchers in the early 20th century. An interesting perception from F.W. Christian is that the Malay family dispersed widely in the Pacific Ocean. They brought along Malayo-Polynesian gene and mixed with the original inhabitants, which shows more African traits. The slightly more Chinese-looking features, according to Christian, is the result of migration wave from Japan, where megaliths of Japan convinced him by a notch. Regardless of how odd it sounds, my point is that there are so many opinions but still no answer. There is also another interesting opinion appeared in ABC News article that reads, experts on Pacific history say it is founded on racist and white supremacist ideologies and promotes pseudoscience. But the problem is that alien theories and lost civilization believers are from all races, and it started before 19th century. Even the natives bluntly said they didn't do it. I can also say it is the mainstream from the arts stream archaeology who accuse the native of lying. Racist and white supremacists are accusations directed at Graham Hancock for the documentary in Netflix entitled Ancient Apocalypse, which simply says that humans didn't do this. Today's archaeology is about glorifying natives who repeatedly told them they didn't do it. If you disagree, there is a very good chance they will crucify you. By the way, Graham Hancock is happily married to a non-white. Nan Madol is not the only place with the same type of basalt columns. The famous Gunung Padang in Indonesia and megalithic ruins of Lelu in Koshai Island shares the same building materials that makes you wonder, how can humans forget to the point of lost civilization scenario if we have been doing this for 1,000 years? If you put these three sites in the big picture, the unknown ancient builders left their megalithic architectural blueprints across our blue planet, stretching approximately 6,000 kilometers between Gunung Padang and two Pacific islands of Micronesia. To say that Austronesians built this, forgot about it, and conveniently came up with legends that sounds like UFO visitations upon arrival of Europeans is worthy of further investigation. Nan Madol also has the reputation of being known as the Venice of the Pacific. It was built on top of coral reef and stacked in such a way there seems to be canals. And because of these canals, archaeologists believe it was built for agriculture. That is ridiculous to me because no one is planting anything on or near this coral reef structure. If it was built by the Sodaliers, that means it took only about 25,000 inhabitants to build this. But if that is the case, we should not be guessing how it was built or how they moved megaton basalt blocks from unknown sources. It would have been so recent, we only need to ask and it shall be given. Nan Madol was built on coral reef and therefore surrounded by salty seawater. The fresh water supply must be brought from the main island. This is such a ridiculous idea for a location choice, where the elite would have their fellow villagers bring water to their city on the sea pretty much every day. Just take a look at this section of the site. It is just a small area compared to the entire site. It looks desolate, so experts say it was abandoned. If they abandoned this site, where did they go? They never changed religion. They still believe that this is a sacred site and they didn't go anywhere. This site was overrun by vegetation, proof it was too hard to even maintain. How could they have built this with less manpower and more devotion in the past? Due to the aggressive influence of Christianity by the early Europeans, Pompeii is now 50% Catholic and 50% Protestants. With the transition of the original beliefs to Christianity, their church service can be very different from those in Europe. Myths and legends might merge and form a new narrative where the giants are Nephilim and Raphaim, and the two brothers were Cain and Abel. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation on the highly magnetized and mysterious city of Nan Madol. See you in the next video and have a wonderful day. This is Berniong signing out. Kaselele.